Hello and welcome back again to Ymt112 Algorithm and Programming 2. So we are going to discuss another question. We just discussed question 1 about GUI. So we need to customize this question and see how we can modify the GUI of question 1 to contain the components or the widgets as shown here. So for question 1, as we discussed, it doesn't have much of components, just a label somewhere in the center, and we explain about it, how this one is set in there. Then what we need to do is we will use the same source code. We just need to modify it and create what we have here. Okay, so we have as you see, we have a button, and this button is just like given a title of click here, and then we have a text field. This text field where we provide an input. Okay, we have the same title, so this title is not changed. Now we just need to go directly to NetBeans and see how we can modify our code. Now initially what we have is a new, actually two new components. Let me just get back here. We are missing this one. The label is removed. We can remove it, it's not difficult. And then we are having two other components, a text field where we input some value and a button. So let's go directly to the source code and try to modify it. Now I don't want to create a new file for this one because we still have the same name of the class. However, we can do that. If you want, you can create your own file and customize it by yourself. Give it a new name for the class. All right. So what we are going to have here is a new two new components. The first one is a button that we have, and the second one is text field. So let's define them. So private. And why we are creating these components private? Because not any class or any method of a class should be able to access to these components. They should be set private so that the class we are dealing with, or the class that they belong to, is able to access to them, and not other classes or other methods of other classes. Okay, so we have two components. We said button. Okay, this is the button, and call it whatever you like. I'll just give it the name of button. Okay, and then another one, private text field, and here I will call it, just for simplicity, text. That's something to enter. Okay, so keep the panel. I'll use this panel to place these two components on. Okay, it's just like similar to a container. The same name of our constructor, because we didn't change the class. Now we don't have this label, we are excluding it, so I'll just comment it out. Now let's just see what we have. We have a text field and a button. So text field, we need to create it. So I'm going to do it similar to previous, similar to what we followed previously here. Whatever we have as a variable equals to new, so we instantiate what? You instantiate the component or the widget. Okay, so this widget can be instantiated using its own class, text field. Okay, and what we need to provide here, we need to provide an argument based on what is mentioned here. Enter something. So this enter something should be provided by default. It's not something we ourselves wrote, or typed. It should be provided by default. It's like a guidance for the user what to do with this field. Okay, so let's get back to NetBeans. Enter something. Was it lowercase or not? It doesn't matter, lowercase or uppercase. S, it doesn't matter. If it is lowercase, we place it lowercase, uppercase, place it uppercase, it doesn't matter. Okay, enter something. Okay, so now what we have other than this widget is the button. So we have button, we call it button, we give it this name, and then we instantiate it. Text field, I'm sorry, JButton, because we are creating a button. Now for this button, what we need to do is we need to give it a name, a title. So look at the name here given to us. Click here. Whatever provided here should be provided as an argument. Click here. Okay, exclamation mark. Then leave the panel the way it is. Now what we need to do is we need to add these two to the panel before adding the panel to the window. So what we are going to have is we don't have a label, so we have what comes first. Now look, I have to explain this. This one comes first because this is how the panel arranges them. You place this one first on the panel, it will come from left to right first. Okay. So we will add first the text field, so it's text, and not test, text. Okay, I'm very sorry, text. And then we need to create another placement, so panel dot add. Okay, text we added, so we need to add the button. We added these two. The panel is already added to the. We have to terminate. It's already added to the window. The window is set to visible, so we are good to go. We created these two components, placed them on the panel, where we place the panel somewhere on the window. Okay, I keep somewhere mysterious for the time being. I'll explain about it a while later. Okay, so we just created these two components from their own classes. If you want to create a button, you use the JButton. And the JText field will allow you to create a text entry input. Okay, then we instantiate them again in the constructor of the class. They could have been done separately. We could have created a method to instantiate them. That's possible, but for the time being, it is simple. We don't have much of details for these widgets. We place their instantiation and creation inside the constructor, and we can manage that. So let's try to run. Okay, now look, this is exactly what we are looking for. I'm sorry. Let me drag it to the side so that we can see and speak about it. Okay, the same components. We have the title, the node, then enter something. This is by default. You can delete it. And then enter whatever you want. Once you actually click and start typing, that one will be disregarded. And then we have a button, and this button is click here. Okay, this is the part of the question that we are responsible of doing. However, is it useful? It's not. Why? Now look, we have a text field. Let's say I enter 10 inside and click here, nothing. Why? Why do not we have any response? For a very simple reason. This button must be registered, and this register is what? Is actually, we have an event, an action that creates based on an action, and we need an action listener to this button. So if we create an action like by clicking, where this action will be gone and what will it do? So we need to register this button, and then we need to manipulate the action taken once this button is clicked, and we need to manage it. So we need to implement action listener. This is a special interface. We need to implement it because for interfaces must be implemented. Any interface that you use, you must implement and override its own methods, all of them. Okay, then we need to register the button itself, kind of action it should have within the constructor or the main program that, the constructor, the main part of my components. Then we need to separately deal with the implementation of the action listener. And we need to customize what kind of action we are looking for. The question is not asking us to provide any reaction or actually any action once the button is clicked. It's just a plain component that does nothing. However, we will have a customization for it in a while. Before that, before going to the new part here, okay, what we are going to do is something that allows us to shorten the way of our coding. Let me close this one. Now look, when we import the swing, it already includes the JFrame, and I'm instantiating this JFrame here. Do I need to instantiate it? We studied what we call the inheritance. So I can terminate this instantiation as a whole. And what I'm going to do is I will go up here and say this class extends a JFrame. Okay. So I don't need to instantiate any. All I'm responsible for is sending by keyword super the title that I have of my GUI. Okay, so note. Okay, this is the title. So we say, similar to this, JFrame window equals new frame note. Now we don't have JFrame anymore as instantiated class. Why? We just have it as an extended or inherited class. So we can go to it by the keyword super, where we provide whatever the argument of the JFrame instantiation or the instance of JFrame requires, or the constructor requires. Okay, now we don't have to instantiate any. We already have access to all these methods. Okay, we already have access to them, exactly like what we use super for reaching out the constructor of JFrame. Then we can just access these methods because they are available within our class. We are extending this class, or we are inheriting the JFrame. Okay, so I remove this window, add directly. I remove this one, set visible directly, and that's it. Well, it shortens our way of typing a code, or actually dealing with GUI application encoding. While this is more useful, in professional programming, usually we do this. So the professional way is to extend the JFrame, or whatever the class that you are using for your GUI, mainly JFrame, and then you create your code based on this action, the inheritance. Since you have this class as the super class, you can reach out its constructor by the keyword super, and then all the methods, public of course, methods available in this class, we can access to them using just by typing them directly. And that would be understandable. Let's just run, and that's it. We don't have any differences, just the same what we did earlier. Exactly. We can stretch it out and see the note here and whatever available as components. So we will follow, from now on, we will follow this way. We will just extend the JFrame. We will inherit it in a proper or more precise terminology. We will use it as a super class for whatever GUI class we are creating, and then we access to its own methods directly without instantiating any window component, and that will make us actually save some time and make our programming sound much more professional. All right, actually this is the end of this question. We don't have any other requirements or any other there's no any other detail of the requirements here. So what we need to do is just terminate. I'll create another session for another question. Until then, have a good time. Goodbye.